Now let me ask you, what's your goals from here? When you've already jumped out of planes, you've already graduated from Ranger School, you graduated from Princeton, and you've still got a long road in front of you. What do you want to do or think about or dream about or hope to find these places?
I was able to go up and down mountains with a ton of weight on my back, and it just kind of helps remind me like how far our bodies can go when you are willing to mentally push yourself.
Yeah. I am honored. When Butch called me and told me, he said, I got a chance for you to interview somebody on your podcast, and he started telling me, I said, I don't care what time, what day, whenever, I want to. So, all right, Mikayla, tell me. Give me a little bit about your background, your story, where you were raised at, and family dynamics and all that.
So I was raised in Clarkston, Michigan. I grew up in a Christian household, so I was blessed to have two really great parents who raised me with good values and set the example. And I guess my main thing was I grew up playing travel softball. So from a young age, it was a goal of mine to play Division I softball. And so that's kind of the path that God had me on. And yeah.
And you went to Princeton to play, right?
Yes.
They offer you a scholarship there?
So Ivy Leagues don't offer athletic scholarship, but they're really generous with their financial aid. So it's all need-based financial aid. So I didn't have to pay the full whatever it is to go there.
Yeah. But you had 4 good years there, didn't you? In the softball especially.
Yeah, especially compared to now, they're not able to have a season. So I was really blessed to have the opportunity to play.
Yeah. Now, what positions did you play?
I played second base and outfield.
Okay. And how was your batting? Did you like pretty good batting?
I liked batting. I was what they call in softball a slapper. So basically kind of like a Happy Gilmore, like run and hit the ball.
Yeah. I'm telling you what, though, you girls are animals, though, on the softball field. I know. I have a daughter-in-law that played softball at college, and I went to see them play one time. And I said, good night. They can play with any of the guys. They're good. Now, and was it fast pitch?
It was fast pitch.
Yeah. And that's pretty wicked.
It can be.
Now, how fast does that ball go in softball?
Gosh. Probably good pitchers pitch anywhere between like 60 to 70 miles an hour.
Wow. And then because they're stepping forward, it looks like they're closer, so the distance is shorter. Yeah.
You have a couple seconds to figure out whether it's going to be a ball or a strike. And you just make your decision and swing and hope for the best.
But see, with you doing it all your life coming up, it becomes more natural, I guess, the more all the mechanics just kind of flow much better.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the Princeton education is something to be proud of, too. I have a friend who's on the board at Princeton, by the way.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and he graduated from there. And
that's awesome.
All of his family went to Ivy League schools, but he wouldn't let any of them go the same. So one went to Columbia, one went to Yale, one went to Harvard. But he always brags about it. He says, yeah, they went there, but the reason I chose Princeton is because we really are the elite. And so they needle each other a lot. So you got a lot to be proud of. Now, one of the things that a lot of people would not know, just because looking at you, you're soft, highly intelligent, and they wouldn't know that you have been or just graduated a while back Army Ranger School, and that is highly impressive. When you went in the military, did you plan on going into Ranger School?
No. So I had originally joined ROTC in college, wanting to do military intelligence.
Right.
So it was about a year and a half later that I realized that I liked being in the field. I liked the strategic part of tactics and the battle drills, and realized that infantry was really where I wanted to be. And yeah, you want to be out there with your hands on it, didn't you?
Yes. Like back on the ball field. I was in Sierra Vista, Arizona a couple of years ago, and the military base there is mainly the brain people. They sit there and do the war by drones and all that, and then there's the group I knew from Fort Benning over here. They want to get out there and be doing it. So you were on that side.
Yeah.
And that probably surprised your family because they thought you
It did. It did. That was the one thing I had originally promised my mom was that I wouldn't do infantry, and then that was a long conversation to have. Like, I really feel like God's wanting me to do this.
Yeah.
But both of my parents have been extremely supportive and just my number one fans.
Oh, I can see. Now, let me ask you, when you got into it, give me a description. Because Ranger School is different from, I know that SEALs have their training and others, but the kind of training you have to do to qualify just to be a Ranger is pretty intense. What's some of the things involved?
Yeah, so in order to even go to Ranger School, you have to pass a preliminary RPA, a Ranger Physical Assessment. So ours was through iBolic, and it's 2 minutes of push-ups, 2 minutes of sit-ups, a 5-mile run, and 6 chin-ups at the end. And it's very strict. Like, the push-ups are all the way down, all the way up, chest touching the ground, slow and controlled. And so once you pass that, then you earn a slot to go to Ranger School. And once you get there, basically the format of it, it's a 62 long day course. And the first week is what's called Rap Week. And that consists of the RPA. So same thing, push-ups, sit-ups, the 5-mile, and then 6 chin-ups at the end. And then a swim test, assembly and disassemble of weapons, and you do a 12-mile ruck at the very end. You do land navigation. It's basically just your preliminary basic Army skills to get into the school. But that's where the majority of people end up failing, is that initial week. So once you get past that week, it gets a little bit easier. Basically, the main thing is just don't quit after that, and you'll make it. So after you get through Rap Week, there's 3 phases. There's Derby phase, Mountain phase, and Florida phase. So Derby is here at Fort Benning, and it's not too difficult. There's not too many hills and mountains to climb. Then obviously once you get to Mountain phase in Dahlonega, Georgia, there's huge mountains that you're ending up climbing up and down every day. And then Florida is swamp phase, and you're walking through the swamps.
With the gators and the moccasins and all the other. Gosh. And then up in the mountains, probably cold and all the hills and all that. And you got to survive out there in the woods. How many the days at a time? How many hours of sleep you get?
Not very many. Probably the most sleep that I got during the actual phase itself was probably a solid block of 2 hours.
Wow.
A lot of nights you either don't sleep or it's 45-minute shifts, because you also have to pull fire guard. Somebody has to be up making sure nothing happens at night. So.
Wow. So now do you have to chart to go from one place to the other and be at a certain place by a certain destination? Like 10 days, you got to be somewhere?
So within the FTX, they have like missions that you end up doing, and there are time crunches for, you have to hit a certain objective by a certain time of the day, but it's a 62 long day course, so the phases are separated out.
And when they're dropping out like that, I mean, that's got to be the worst feeling for them. And you probably thought about it at times, but you just keep pressuring. All right, let me ask you this. This is a question I want to ask because I've had 2 world-class athletes, and then I'd consider you in that same boat. When I ask this question, how much of it is mental? I mean, it's not just physical, but mental. Their answers are always much more than you'd think. Is that true?
At least 90% of it is mental. A big part of it is 100% mental. I know. So during mountain phase, right before, so each phase, it's like you have a couple of days of what's called techniques, and they teach you what you need to know before you actually get out in the field and go into the FTX and just walk around the woods for the rest of the time. So during that techniques week, we were climbing up Mount Yonah, and we spent a couple of days out there and then climbed down, and I ended up spraining my ankle coming all the way down. And when I went to the doctor, he was a civilian doctor, so he was like, you're going to need 4 to 5 months of recovery, no physical activity. How does that sound? I was like, well, not very good, since I'm going to be walking up and down mountains with 90-plus pounds on my back. And he was like, well, you probably shouldn't do that. And at that point, I didn't really have a choice. I had already gone through 3 derbies, and I was I'd shaved my head. I was in
Yeah.
it for the long haul.
Yeah.
And I just remember that night I was in tears in the shower with a couple of other girls, just saying, like, I have no idea how I'm going to physically do it.
Wow.
I'll try, but I physically don't know how I'm going to be able to do it. And I prayed about it, and something happened, but the next day I was able to walk sort of on my toe without like moving my ankle a ton, and I was able to go up and down mountains with a ton of weight on my back, and it just kind of helped remind me like how far our bodies can go when you are willing to mentally push yourself.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Because now, is there any long-lasting damage from that?
It still is a little tight, and it's got a little bit of inflammation, but I'm able to run again, and it's working for me now.
It's amazing. Yeah, because you would have every reason to make excuses, to quit, to bail out. But the problem would be if you did, could you imagine the feeling of I got to go back and try again? Because you don't seem like the kind of person that would say, okay, I'll just move on. You know, somebody had told me one time about Ranger School. There was somebody that I knew that he knew a friend that had tried 3 times and couldn't get in. Finally, I think he had to quit. And he was a real jock, but they said no matter what, he could not conquer it, and he just kept failing it, and that was his goal, but he couldn't do it. So, you know, there's a lot to be said for your ability to do that. And I bet when you went in, there were probably people around you thinking, you'll probably bail out. You know, you want to look around and size the people up. You know, they'll quit, but I'll hang in. And so, yeah, but I swear I'm proud of you. Now, how many women have graduated Ranger School? Were you like 50?
I was 56.
Okay.
I'm not positive on the number now, but I'm sure it's at least over 60 by now.
Yeah. And let me ask you this. There was a lady about 3 or 4 years ago, one of the ladies won it, and she actually went here to the church.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Came up to me after the service, said, I want you to know I'm leaving, but I have enjoyed the church. And I could tell she was an athlete. And so I said, you're in some type pro sports or something, you got to be. And then the guy beside her started laughing. He said, she just won the Ranger School and the competition. And so sweet as could be, a lot like you, same spirit, just quality girl. And she was going, I think, to an assignment at the Pentagon.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
She said, I'll be leaving here and going to, and that was probably about 3-4 years ago, something like that.
Okay, wow.
But I thought, how cool was that? And so now you're the second one I've met that's done that. That's too sweet. Now, I also heard that you just went to jump school.
Yes.
Now, did you have to do that? Or did you just want to do that?
You kind of have to do it. It's one of those things. I'm not going to an airborne unit.
Right.
However, it's kind of expected as an officer after graduating infantry bullock that you go to airborne school and you go to ranger school.
Okay.
It's not required to go, but it's highly encouraged.
Yeah.
So I went.
I should have figured it. Well, now did it cause you any more injuries when you jump?
No, I was very worried about that.
Good.
I had asked a ton of people in my life to pray because I was really worried about my ankle. But it ended up being totally fine.
Yeah.
And they do a really good job of hammering in the techniques of jumping out and what you need to, how your body needs to be positioned when you end up executing your parachute landing fall.
Right.
And if you just keep your feet and knees together, it all turns out okay.
Oh,
so
now, how many jumps did you make?
You are required to do 5.
Okay.
So you did 5 jumps.
Was that fun?
It was very
scary at first.
It was very scary. Just sitting in the plane waiting, and then also watching the other people in front of you jump out, and you see their bodies get taken by the wind and everything. So it was very scary at first, but by my second jump, it was really exciting. The adrenaline rush is really crazy.
That's what I would think. Well, I would guess that if you were doing it tandem with somebody else with you, it's okay because they got charged. But when it's you and there's nobody there.
Exactly. It's terror, and then once your parachute deploys and you're looking up, seeing the whole world around you.
Wow.
It's beautiful, and then once you get close to the ground and you see how quickly the ground is coming, it's terror again.
Yeah. Now, does it go slow enough up there when you come down? See, I've done the parasails before.
If you pull your slip, so basically you pull one of your risers, so you're going against the wind. it'll slow you down a little bit, but unfortunately the chutes that we use aren't the most, they're not the best with navigating the winds. They're more to make sure that they actually deploy. But it's a really cool experience.
I would think
it was really awesome.
I would think it would be. Now, do you land out here? Do y'all jump off the towers? Or y'all jumped out of the planes?
We jump out of the planes.
Wow. How cool is that? I mean, can you imagine? Here's this girl from Michigan. God's given her a story where she winds up playing ball at Princeton, then puts her in the military. She gets to come to Georgia. Turns out being number 56, one of 56 women to graduate from Ranger School. Then jumping out of planes. I mean,
it's crazy.
You really have lived so fast you hadn't had time to write it down and reflect. But if you ever do one day, you're going to say, wow, I went a long way for my age compared to a lot of my peers. Now, let me ask you this. Your faith, how much of a role does your faith play in your life?
An incredible amount. I have felt really blessed with the amount of, I guess, like agency that God has had in my life. I've just really felt His presence and His guidance in guiding me where I'm going. There's just been countless times where I have a certain plan in place in my head, and I feel as though God's leading me down that path. And it happened with ROTC. I had really thought that I was going to join the FBI right out of college, and that was where God was leading me. But it turned out that He had ROTC in the Army in store. Same thing with Princeton. I wanted to go to University of Michigan and play softball there, but instead He had Princeton in store for me. And there was a point in Ranger School in Florida phase, my second time, so you can get recycled. I got recycled for a second time, and I just remember talking to my mom. I was in tears. Rangers aren't supposed to cry, but I was just in tears talking to her, saying, I have no idea how I'm physically going to get through this. My ankle was super swollen and just really hurting. My whole body just felt broken. My arm, I couldn't lift my arm to a certain point. I had like nerve damage, and I did not know how I was going to do it. And I said, my mom was like, don't worry, God's got you, God's got you. I was like, He's literally going to have to physically carry me through the phase. And it turned out that our second day, the way the missions work is, in order to grade the platoon sergeant, they pick people to be the casualties. So they'll just tap you on the head, they'll be like, play dead. And 2 nights in a row, they tapped me on the head and said, play dead. So basically what happened is, instead of walking the 2 miles that night to my patrol base, I was literally carried.
How about
and
that?
I was just looking up at the stars like, you're funny, God. That's a good one. I literally said you're going to have to carry me, and here I am being carried.
You got what you asked for.
Exactly.
How sweet is that?
So, yeah, I've been really blessed to have Him so present in my
And there's
life.
that thing, Mikayla, about hearing God's voice and just knowing, it may be the quietness in your spirit, but there's a peace that you have that's what I'm supposed to do. The confirmations after you've done it, while you're doing it, sometimes you may wonder, is this really God's will, and how am I going to get through? But I like the fact that you listen to His voice, and that's really been the secret all along. I believe God can take a person a long way in life if they'll just lean on Him. And obviously, I've also seen the humility you have for that. In your faith, what do you consider kind of your spiritual gifting? You've got mercy or caring or teaching or prophecy? What do you think God's wired you for that you just enjoy doing?
I think caring and caring about people and serving others. I think, again, it's due a large part to my parents. They just raised all of us from a young age to, we're here to serve and not to be served. And they lived that, and I got to grow up seeing them do that, and it's just kind of followed me my whole life. I've always just kind of had a desire to, serve the community. And again, I was interested in law enforcement, but here I am in the military serving in this way.
And obviously it sounds like you got great parents too. That's a big thing. It's just the right parents, and I know you make them proud. But that's one of the best things. It's just the fact that you honor them and show them that even now. it's lost in our culture, but I appreciate the honor, the respect you have for your mom and dad, and they got a lot to be proud of. Now let me ask you, what's your goals from here? When you've already jumped out of planes, you've already graduated from Ranger School, you've already graduated from Princeton, and you've still got a long road in front of you. What do you want to do, or think about, or dream about, or hope to find his place in?
So short term, I'm going to Colorado Springs, and I'm going to be a platoon leader. So I'll be looking forward to actually doing. Right now, I've only done training, and so I'm looking forward to actually leading a platoon. And after that, I'm not really sure. I dream about starting my own business one day and doing something along those lines. But kind of right now, I'm just kind of going with the flow, seeing where God takes me, what doors He opens. But yeah.
Well, that's the right thing to do. Honestly, you'll do well. I believe you'll do well wherever you go. You get in a business, it's going to go well. You got all the right tools. But the key, I think, is just what you're doing now. You don't want to plan it out. I hear people say, I got this 20-year plan. And I'm thinking, well, I don't. Sometimes I have a 20-minute plan. And so, but the good is you're leaving God plenty of room to show you where and what to do. And that's going to be for you the greatest thing. Now, let me ask you this. I know I probably shouldn't ask. How old are you now?
I'm 23 years old.
Wow. Hats off to you. I just, honestly, there's no limit to where God can take you. I mean, there's no limit. There's certain people, Mikayla, that I meet and I see and I have compassion for and love and value everyone. There's certain people I see and I say, bless their heart, they really come a long ways. But there's some people I see, I say, they just got all the goods. I mean, there's a future, and I see that in you. I think there's a calling of God on your life, and it's no different than a calling on a pastor or the calling on a missionary. It's a calling that God puts on you, and He gives you gifts, and He gives you a heart that's shaped by His heart, and He puts you in places where other people can't ever be. And long after, you may not even go in with the idea of ministering, but long after you've left their presence, I believe you're going to have an impact in people's lives. You got too much going for you at this age and stage.
Thank you.
And, now, what have you loved about Fort Benning? Fort Benning is a place most military people have been to at some point if they've been in infantry.
I really just love the people here. I love this church. I'm really sad to leave Cascade. It's just such a great group of people, and I really do love it here. Love Columbus, the little coffee shops. I like going there and just having my reading time there, and I mean, that's really the one thing about the military that I love, is just the opportunity to meet so many people from literally all walks of life. And it's incredible, because in a lot of other professions, I wouldn't meet people from all these different crazy backgrounds, different life stories, and it's really just a huge blessing.
Yes. Now, have there been other bases you've been stationed at?
Not yet. This is my first one. I've done training at Fort Dix out in New Jersey, and then training at Fort Knox, but this is my first station that I've been at for a long period of time.
Well, from a girl from Michigan down to Columbus, Georgia, quite a big, just a big transition there. I have a relative that lives in Michigan, and it's always snowing. They're always blocked in with the snow. They can't get out. So I will sometimes just send a picture of the sunshine and say, thinking about you. And they'll send me one buried in snow. So it has been good. Now, you haven't picked up the Southern accent, which is good.
Nope.
That'll help you.
Not yet.
Yeah. But the beauty of it is that most people, I feel like, and God sends us a lot of people at Cascade from the military. And years ago, I used to grieve because it was just like you leaving. I'd say, Lord, why can't I be in a place where the people can come and they can stay? But instead, I got a pastor church where 300 families a year leave. And how do you keep growing when you got 300 a year leaving? And then I felt like the Lord was saying, listen, I'm using them, I'm bringing them through, and they're missionaries, being supported by the government. And you just love them and reach them and help them and encourage them. They're going to go out all over the world and other places. But you're basically a sending place. And So it changed my mind from thinking, okay, now when they leave, instead of grieving a long time, I say, I know they're going out to an assignment. And I believe that about you. I believe your assignment's going to be in a lot of good places. And I hope that you'll know that we as a home church want to pray for you and pray for you regularly and often.
Thank you.
And I hope our viewers and the people that listen will also do the same. And I want to say that any of the young ladies out there that maybe you've got this passion or drive or desire that you want to see how good you can and push your own limits, take Mikayla's story and say, there's somebody that did it. And I believe what an inspiration you're going to be to a lot of girls. So thank you for the honor of being with you today.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad. Thank you. By the way, a lot of people are using this book as a means to witness to their friends. What they're doing is they're saying, I have a friend that doesn't know God or would like to know it. I want to give them this book. It's the life story that I have of how I came to God and how He changed my life and what He's done and what He taught me. And so they would take it and put it in the hands of a friend. Then they'd come back and talk to them and find a great experience and an open conversation. So if you've not done that or there's a friend you have in mind that you'd like to talk to, this may be an easy way to approach them. So it's called Make a Break For It. You can find it in any of your bookstores as well as Amazon. You can get it online. I hope you'll check it out. Love to see it in your hands.